What if I told you that cheating doesn't just happen overnight? Before a woman betrays, she leaves a trail. Small clues, strange shifts in energy, tiny cracks that only a sharp eye can see. The problem? Most men don't see them. Not because they're dumb, but because they're blinded by love, comfort, or hope. They don't want to believe the truth. But here's the thing. If you can recognize the signs early, you can save yourself from months of pain and years of regret. That's where female psychology meets Stoic wisdom. Because once you see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be, you'll never be fooled the same way again. So buckle up. What you're about to hear isn't easy, but it's the kind of truth every man should know. Sign 1. Emotional warmth disappears. In the beginning, everything feels effortless. She laughs at your jokes, even the bad ones. She leans in close, touches your arm, and her eyes light up when you walk into the room. Her texts used to pop up fast, full of energy, emojis, and affection. She wanted to connect, and you could feel it in the way she reached out without hesitation. That early warmth is intoxicating because it makes you believe you found someone who truly sees you, appreciates you, and wants to be near you. It's the comfort that makes men lower their guard. You think, finally, I can relax. She's mine. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Warmth rarely disappears by accident. When that spark begins to fade, the signs are small at first. A slower reply to your message. A conversation that used to flow like a river now feels like pulling teeth. You tell her something important about your day, and the next time you bring it up, she doesn't even remember. That stings because it tells you her attention isn't where it used to be. She might still be physically present, sitting next to you on the couch, eating dinner with you at the same table, but emotionally, it feels like she's somewhere else. And in many cases, she is. See, people don't detach for no reason. Emotional warmth disappears when that energy is being redirected. Maybe it's work stress, maybe it's a family issue, but if the coldness lingers, it's often because she's investing her emotional energy in another connection. Human psychology is simple here. The heart doesn't like being empty. If she's no longer pouring into you, she's likely pouring into something or someone else. And while you're wondering what happened, she's already rationalizing the distance. This is where men often fool themselves. They say, she's just tired. She's busy. It's just a phase. And sometimes, yes, life throws seasons of stress that make someone quieter or less affectionate. But when the warmth consistently disappears, when the pattern shifts from weeks to months, you're not dealing with random stress. You're dealing with detachment. And detachment is dangerous because it creates emotional space where new connections can grow. Now, let's be clear, emotional detachment isn't always cheating, but it's always a red flag. When a woman no longer feels emotionally safe, attracted, or engaged with you, she naturally starts looking for those feelings elsewhere, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. That's why many affairs don't start with physical attraction. They start with emotional intimacy. A coworker who listens, a friend who makes her laugh, someone online who gives her the attention she used to get from you. That shift in energy is often the true beginning of betrayal. The Stoics understood detachment differently. They saw it as a way to remain unshaken by life's ups and downs, to not be ruled by passions or fears. And in the right context, that's powerful. But in a relationship, sudden detachment doesn't feel like wisdom. It feels like rejection. If she used to be warm and engaged, and now she's cold and distant without clear reason, it's not a phase you should ignore. It's a signal. Stoicism teaches us to see reality as it is, not as we hope it to be. A Stoic man doesn't deny the truth of her withdrawal. He notices it, accepts it, and asks himself what it reveals. Here's where it gets tricky. Many men react to fading warmth by chasing harder. They shower her with compliments, buy gifts, or push for conversations. But often, the harder you chase, the colder she becomes. Why? Because chasing doesn't rebuild attraction, it highlights the imbalance. She pulls back, You move forward, and suddenly you're dancing to a rhythm where she sets the pace. Instead of restoring her warmth, you end up confirming her detachment. So what's the Stoic approach? Observation without panic. Don't beg for warmth that isn't there. Don't drown her in desperate energy. Step back and notice. Has her laughter disappeared? Has her interest in your life shrunk? Does she seem present but emotionally absent, like a ghost haunting her own relationship? If yes, then you're not imagining it. You're seeing the truth. And here's the hardest pill to swallow. Once emotional warmth disappears, it rarely returns on its own. Relationships don't heal because you wish harder or pretend the distance isn't there. They heal when both people acknowledge the gap and commit to bridging it. If she won't acknowledge it, then her detachment isn't just a mood, it's a choice. Remember, emotional warmth is like sunlight to a relationship. Without it, the bond withers. If she's pulling away, don't cover your eyes and hope it'll get bright again. Pay attention, because her silence, her coldness, her lack of spark, they're not random. They're signs. And the sooner you face them, the sooner you can decide whether to fight for her heart or walk away with your dignity. As Marcus Aurelius said, you will face many distractions. Stand firm and see clearly. In love, that clarity begins the moment you stop mistaking her detachment for a bad mood and start recognizing it for what it really is, a warning. Sign 2. Her time becomes a mystery. Time doesn't lie. It's the clearest truth teller in any relationship. And when someone's schedule begins to shift in ways that don't make sense, it's rarely a coincidence. At first, everything was predictable. You knew when she'd leave for work, when she'd come home, and how she usually spent her evenings. There was a rhythm to her life, and within that rhythm, you felt secure. But suddenly, the rhythm breaks. She's staying late at the office, even though deadlines don't seem any heavier than usual. She's meeting friends you've never heard of before, or she's running errands that take hours but result in nothing to show for it. When you ask about her day, the answers sound rehearsed, vague, almost dismissive. It was fine, nothing special. The truth is, cheaters rarely cover their tracks with dramatic lies. Most don't invent wild stories that would instantly raise suspicion. Instead, they bend time. They stretch out the hours in ways that can't easily be verified. They blur the details just enough to make you stop asking questions. It's not about constructing a perfect lie. It's about creating just enough haze to hide what's really happening. And that's why vague stories are so effective. They don't give you anything concrete to push against. You're left with silence and your own doubt. Think about it. When she tells you she lost track of time at the store and comes home 3 hours later without a single shopping bag, something's off. When she claims her phone died during a late-night girls' night, yet her friends don't mention going out, it's another loose thread. Each excuse on its own might sound harmless, but patterns matter. One excuse might be nothing. 2 could be coincidence, but 3 or more? That's a pattern, and patterns reveal what words try to hide. Stoic wisdom reminds us to see appearances not as facts, but as signs. Epictetus said appearances can foreshadow the truth. In other words, you don't need to accuse or panic. You simply need to notice. A Stoic man doesn't chase explanations or beg for clarity. He pays attention to consistency. Because when her time becomes a maze filled with dead ends, you're not paranoid for questioning it. You're simply awake to reality. Sign 3. Secrets and the fortress of the phone. If there's one modern object that holds more truth than anything else, it's the phone. That little rectangle in her hand contains her conversations, her connections, her late-night thoughts, and the energy she shares with people when you're not around. And here's the thing. When someone suddenly begins guarding their phone like it's a treasure chest, you need to pay attention. It's not about being paranoid. It's about recognizing a clear shift in behavior. Think back to when things were good. She left her phone on the couch, sometimes forgot where she put it, and didn't care if you picked it up to check the time or change the song. There was nothing to hide, so there was no reason to protect it. But now, Her phone is always face down, always locked, always on silent. She carries it from room to room like it's glued to her hand. A notification pops up, she smirks to herself, but quickly tucks it away before you can see. You reach toward it, maybe just out of habit, and she reacts like you just tried to snatch a live grenade. That kind of defensiveness doesn't appear out of thin air. It comes from secrecy. In female psychology, secrecy usually points to displacement. It means she's redirecting her emotional investment. Maybe it started small. A friendly chat with a coworker. Just checking in message from someone she knew. Nothing physical, nothing outrageous, at least not at first. But emotional intimacy grows fast when it's kept private. Soon those harmless little exchanges turn into a private world, a bubble she doesn't want you to pop. And often, emotional cheating is the gateway to physical betrayal. The mind and the heart go first, and the body follows later. Now, here's where many men go wrong. They start snooping. They demand her phone. They scroll through messages in secret. They confront her with anger. But chasing only fuels the fire. If she's hiding something, she'll only hide it deeper. The Stoic approach is different. Don't beg, don't snoop, don't panic. Just observe, because the truth always shows itself in patterns. And listen, if this is opening your eyes already, don't wait. Hit subscribe to Stoic 95, tap that bell icon, and stay ahead of heartbreak. The signs are always there. The question is, will you notice them? Sign 4. Gaslighting and blame shifting. This is where things stop hurting just your heart and start messing with your mind. Emotional distance and secrecy are painful enough, but gaslighting cuts deeper because it makes you doubt your own reality. It's not just betrayal, it's psychological warfare. It usually begins subtly. She starts throwing little accusations your way. You're too insecure. You've been acting distant. You're always overreacting. At first, you wonder if she might be right. After all, you have been asking more questions. You've been noticing the late-night texts, the sudden privacy, the vague stories. But here's the twist. You're acting this way because she's giving you reasons to. She's pulling away, she's changing, and your instincts are responding. Instead of owning her behavior, she flips the script. That's the essence of gaslighting. It's projection. She feels guilty about her choices, but rather than confronting that guilt, she pushes it onto you. Suddenly, you're the problem. You find yourself apologizing for noticing what you were supposed to notice. You catch her whispering on the phone at midnight, and instead of her explaining, you're apologizing for being too paranoid. That's how powerful gaslighting can be. It twists reality until you feel guilty for seeing the truth. Psychologists describe gaslighting as one of the most damaging forms of manipulation because it doesn't just change how you see her, it changes how you see yourself. Over time, it makes you stop trusting your instincts. And once you stop trusting your gut, she has free rein to continue whatever she's doing because you'll second-guess yourself every step of the way. This is why betrayal destroys you twice. The first wound is her actions, the cheating, the secrecy, the lies. But the second wound is even worse, your own denial. When you start believing her version of reality instead of your own, you lose the very thing that protects you, your ability to recognize truth. The Stoic response: clarity. A Stoic man doesn't allow his perception to be clouded by guilt that isn't his. He observes without letting her accusations rewrite the facts. You don't need to fight every gaslighting attempt. You just need to see it for what it is. Because the moment you keep hold of your truth, the manipulation loses its power. Sign 5. Sudden kindness and over-affection. Out of all the signs, this one is the trickiest because on the surface it feels amazing. She starts acting like the partner you always wish she would be. Suddenly, she's more affectionate, kissing you more often, giving you unexpected compliments, planning little date nights, even buying you small gifts. At first, you might think, wow, she finally appreciates me. Maybe all the rough patches are behind us. But deep down, something feels off. The affection is real, but it's heavy, almost forced, like she's trying to prove something instead of simply showing love. This sudden burst of sweetness usually isn't growth, it's guilt. Psychology calls this guilt overcompensation. When someone does something that clashes with their self-image, they find ways to balance the scale. She knows cheating makes her the bad guy, but she doesn't want to believe she's a bad person. So she rewrites the story in her own head. If I'm showering him with love, then I'm not really doing something wrong. The kindness becomes a cover-up, a way to soothe her own conscience rather than to strengthen the relationship. That's why it feels strange to you. Deep inside, your instincts know the difference between genuine affection and affection that comes with an agenda. Genuine love flows naturally. Guilt-driven affection feels like it's trying too hard, like she's putting on a performance. One day she's cold, distant, and secretive. The next day she's cuddly, playful, and overly attentive. That kind of swing isn't growth, it's a mask. And here's where a lot of men get fooled. They want to believe the change is real, so they ignore the earlier red flags. They tell themselves, see, she really does love me. I was just overthinking. But ignoring the inconsistency is dangerous. Because what's happening isn't love getting stronger, it's deception getting smarter. Marcus Aurelius said, "The closer you are to truth, the more you must see through the fog of pleasure." In other words, don't let extra kisses and sweet words blind you to the reality beneath them. Ask yourself, is this affection consistent, or is it covering something? Because when warmth suddenly floods back after weeks of coldness, it's rarely romance. It's guilt in disguise. Sign 6. She pushes the breakup first. This is the final act, and it's one of the hardest to accept. By the time you get here, she's already detached emotionally, maybe even physically, but she still doesn't want to be the one who looks like the villain. Very few people like to carry the label of the cheater or the one who left. So what does she do? She flips the script one last time. She pushes you to end it, or she ends it herself in a way that paints her as the victim, not the betrayer. It usually starts with subtle language. I just need space. I feel like we've grown apart. Maybe we should take a break. On the surface, these phrases sound gentle, even reasonable, but beneath them is a quiet truth. She's already gone. A break is rarely about healing. It's about creating space for her next move. And if she doesn't go the soft route, she may choose chaos instead. This is where unnecessary fights start happening. She picks at small things, blows up over minor disagreements, or accuses you of flaws she's suddenly decided are unbearable. It's not about resolving issues. It's about creating enough tension and emotional exhaustion that you're pushed to walk away first. That way, she doesn't have to bear the guilt. She can say, "He left me." And in her story, she becomes the one who was wronged. It's a psychological strategy, even if she's not consciously aware of it. Ending things this way gives her a sense of moral escape. In her mind, she didn't betray you. You abandoned her, or the relationship just wasn't working. But the reality is simple. She checked out long before the breakup talk. She left emotionally, then physically, and now she's just writing the ending in a way that protects her image. This is the moment where many men crumble. They beg, they bargain, they plead for another chance. But a Stoic man understands that love cannot be forced. He doesn't chase. He doesn't try to convince someone to stay who has already left in spirit. Instead, he accepts the truth with dignity. Because sometimes silence and walking away speak louder than any argument ever could. Why men miss these signs? Now you might be asking yourself, why didn't I see this before? The answer is simple. Love makes us blind. Hope filters out red flags. And most men don't want to believe their partner could betray them. But Stoicism isn't about paranoia. It's about clarity. It's not about being suspicious of every smile. It's about watching actions instead of clinging to fantasies. She can say, "I love you." But if her actions whisper betrayal, believe the actions. So here's the truth. The signs are always there. A wise man doesn't need to accuse. He just needs to observe. A Stoic man doesn't beg for loyalty. He recognizes when it's gone. And a high-value man doesn't cry to be chosen. He walks away with strength. If this opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe to Stoic 95, smash that bell icon, and share this with a brother who might need it. Because the truth might sting, but ignorance destroys. Stay sharp, stay grounded, stay stoic.